Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Stellar Command Station Alpha, watching the shimmering lights of New Singapore spread across the surface of Proxima b. 20 years of human colonial expansion had transformed the once barren world into humanity's greatest achievement. Their first successful extrasolar colony. The transparent aluminum viewport reflected her stern expression as she reviewed the latest defense grid reports on her neural interface. The alert came without warning. Every quantum communications array across the colony lit up simultaneously. The neural networks crashed under the load of incoming data, and the planetary defense grid activated automatically. Sarah's enhanced reflexes kicked in as she barked orders to her command staff. Full defensive posture. Get me visual on whatever's broadcasting. The space above Proxima warped and twisted, as if reality itself was being torn apart. A massive vessel emerged, if you could call it a vessel. It resembled a living crystal structure more than any spacecraft humanity had ever built, stretching nearly 20 kilometers from end to end. Its surface rippled with patterns of light that seemed to follow no logical sequence. Multiple objects emerging from quantum space, Commander, Lieutenant Park reported, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. We're counting. 17 vessels of similar size. They're taking up strategic positions around the colony. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Humanity's entire colonial fleet consisted of barely 30 ships, none larger than a kilometer in length. These vessels could swat them aside like insects. The main communications array crackled to life with a signal that bypassed every security protocol they had in place. A figure materialized in the center of the command deck, a hologram of crystalline beauty. It appeared vaguely humanoid but was composed of geometric patterns that constantly shifted and reformed. People of Earth's children. The being spoke, its voice resonating not through sound, but directly in their minds. We are the hegemony of ordered species. Your expansion has been noted, your progress monitored. We come with purpose and warning. Sarah stepped forward, her military training taking over. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You've entered restricted space without. Your restrictions are irrelevant, the being interrupted. We have allowed your species to expand thus far because you showed promise. But you approach a threshold that cannot be crossed. Earth must remain quarantined. Murmurs spread across the command deck. Earth, the cradle of humanity, now a toxic, overpopulated world that most had left behind generations ago. Why would these advanced beings care about their abandoned homeworld? Earth is under your protection. Sarah asked carefully. No. The crystalline being's patterns pulsed with what might have been amusement. Earth is under containment. The sleeping ones must remain sleeping. Your species was permitted to leave, but you must not return. The price of violation will be extinction. Sarah's mind raced. In all of human history, no expedition had returned to Earth in over 50 years. The polluted atmosphere and depleted resources had made it pointless. But now, what sleeping ones? She demanded. What's on Earth that? This is not a negotiation. The being's patterns turned sharp, aggressive. This message is being delivered to all your colonies simultaneously. Earth is forbidden. Any attempt to breach the quarantine will be met with immediate response. We have observed your kind's tendency toward defiance. Know that we have enforced this quarantine for millions of years against species far more advanced than yours. The hologram began to fade. But Sarah called out, wait. At least tell us why. We have a right to know what's on our own world. The being paused, its pattern swirling contemplatively. Your right to know died with your ancestors' choice to leave. Be grateful we allow your colonies to persist. Some among the hegemony advocated for your species' extinction merely for sharing their genetic pattern. With that cryptic statement, the hologram vanished. The massive ships began to shift back into quantum space, their departure creating ripples of distorted spacetime that set off every sensor alarm in the colony. Sarah stared at the space where the hologram had been, her mind working through the implications. Earth wasn't just their abandoned cradle. It was something else entirely. Something that made even these godlike beings nervous. "Commander," Lieutenant Park's voice was barely steady. "We're receiving transmissions from every human colony. They all got the same message. The Council is calling for an emergency session." Sarah nodded slowly, her decision already made. "Get me a secure channel to Dr. Rivera at the Quantum Archaeology Institute, and find every scrap of data we have about Earth's deep geological history." "Mom." Park looked confused. "These beings didn't just show up now by coincidence," Sarah said, her eyes fixed on the stars. "They came because we're getting close to something. Our quantum archaeology experiments, our deep space sensors, we're on the verge of discovering something they don't want us to find. And it's buried in Earth's history." She turned to face her crew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. "They just made their biggest mistake," she said firmly. "They told humanity not to do something. And if there's one constant in human history, it's that telling us we can't do something is the surest way to guarantee we'll try." The quantum comm buzzed with an incoming priority message. The game was already beginning, and Sarah knew humanity would need every scrap of ingenuity and courage they possessed. Because somewhere on their abandoned, poisoned homeworld lay a secret worth threatening their entire species to protect. And Sarah Chen intended to find out what it was. Dr. Marcus Rivera's hands trembled as he reviewed the quantum data stream from Earth. The holographic display showed layer upon layer of geological strata, but it was what lay between those layers that had kept him awake for the past 3 days. His lab in the Quantum Archaeology Institute on Proxima was littered with empty coffee containers and discarded data crystals. "Run the temporal analysis again," he ordered the AI. "Focus on the Triassic boundary." The hologram shifted, showing a cross-section of Earth's crust from 250 million years ago. Normal geology showed a mass extinction event, but the quantum scans revealed something else. Perfectly geometric structures buried beneath the continents, too regular to be natural. The secure quantum comm chimed. Commander Chen's face appeared in midair, looking as tired as Marcus felt. "Tell me you found something, Doctor." "Sarah, you need to see this." Marcus gestured, sharing his data feed. "We've been blind. Literally blind. Our previous scanning technology couldn't penetrate deep enough, but the new quantum archaeology techniques are showing us something impossible." The holographic display zoomed in on one of the geometric structures. It was a perfect dodecahedron, 20 kilometers on each side, buried beneath what had once been Pangaea. And it wasn't alone. "There are hundreds of them," Marcus continued, his voice filled with barely contained excitement. "A network spanning the entire planet, all interconnected, all powered down but still intact after 250 million years. This isn't just ancient technology, Sarah. This is engineering on a scale that makes the hegemony look primitive." Sarah's expression remained neutral, but her eyes betrayed her shock. "The sleeping ones," she whispered. "This is what they're afraid of." "It gets better." Marcus pulled up another data set. "We did genetic comparison scans. The quantum signatures from these structures. They share patterns with human DNA, specific patterns that don't appear in any other Earth species, living or extinct. They created us," Sarah said flatly. "Or at least, they shaped us." Marcus shook his head. "No, that's what's fascinating. The temporal data suggests these structures went dormant around the same time as the Triassic extinction. But the genetic markers in humans, they're older. Sarah, I think we're looking at this backward. I don't think they created us. I think we created them." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Sarah finally broke it. "You're saying human beings existed before? A technologically advanced human civilization, millions of years ago. Not exactly human as we are now," Marcus clarified. "But humanoid, certainly. The genetic evidence suggests we engineered ourselves multiple times, seeding Earth with modified DNA that would eventually re-evolve into our current form. It's brilliant, really. Hide your civilization not just underground, but in time itself. A proximity alert flashed. Marcus quickly checked the sensors. We've got company. Hegemony ships just appeared in the outer system. They're watching us, Sarah said grimly. Every scan we make of Earth, they detect. We need to move faster. Have you figured out what these structures were for? Marcus pulled up another hologram, this one showing energy pattern analyses. They're not weapons, at least not primarily. They're more like reality engines. They could manipulate quantum fields on a planetary scale, rewrite the laws of physics within their area of influence. The power requirements would be astronomical, but the engineering is elegant. Whoever built these wasn't just advanced. They understood the universe on a fundamental level we can barely comprehend. And now they're sleeping, Sarah mused, waiting to be reawakened. The hegemony doesn't want to stop us from reaching Earth. They want to stop us from waking up. Marcus nodded slowly. The structures are tied to human genetic markers. Only our DNA can activate them. We're not just the descendants of their creators, Sarah. We're the key. Another alert, more urgent this time. The hegemony ships were moving closer, taking up positions that would allow them to monitor all quantum communications with Earth. They're getting nervous, Sarah observed. How much more time do you need? Marcus studied his data feeds. To understand everything. Years, but to figure out how to activate one of the structures. Maybe a week. The base coding is complex, but familiar somehow. Like I've seen it before. You have 1 day, Sarah said firmly. The hegemony's watching Earth, but they're also watching us. Every colony, every outpost. They know we'll try something. We need to make our move before they decide to eliminate the threat we pose entirely. Marcus started to protest, but the determination in Sarah's eyes stopped him. She was right. The hegemony hadn't just issued a warning. They had started a countdown. Every human being in the galaxy was now living on borrowed time. 1 day, he agreed. But Sarah, if I'm right about what these structures can do, about what we used to be capable of, we're not just going to rewrite history. We're going to rewrite reality itself. Sarah's hologram smiled grimly. Good, because we're about to pick a fight with gods, Doctor. We'll need every advantage we can get. As the quantum comm went dark, Marcus turned back to his data. Somewhere in these patterns lay the key to humanity's true heritage, and perhaps their only hope for survival. The hegemony had maintained their quarantine for millions of years, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had told humanity their own story was forbidden. And if there was one thing humans excelled at, it was breaking rules. In the depths of space, the crystalline ships of the hegemony moved into attack position, their sensors trained on every human settlement. The countdown to confrontation had begun, and the fate of 2 civilizations, one sleeping, one awakening, hung in the balance. The abandoned mining facility on Europa's dark side wasn't much to look at, but it offered something precious: privacy from the hegemony's watchful eyes. Commander Sarah Chen stood before the assembled group. Representatives from every human colony gathered in secret while their official delegations kept the hegemony distracted with diplomatic talks. The quantum archaeology data is conclusive, she said, gesturing to the holographic display showing Earth's buried structures. Our ancestors didn't just leave us technology. They left us a legacy. And the hegemony knows exactly what we're capable of becoming. Admiral James Torres of the Mars Fleet cleared his throat. The hegemony has us outgunned thousands to 1. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Even if everything you've shown us is true, how do we reach Earth without triggering immediate extinction? Dr. Rivera stepped forward, his avatar flickering slightly from the quantum encryption, protecting their communications. Because they're not as advanced as they want us to think. Those ships, their weapons, they're using borrowed technology, copied from the same civilization. They're trying to keep dormant. Our civilization. He brought up new data streams showing comparative analyses. Their ships use quantum field manipulation, but it's crude, inefficient. like someone reverse engineering a fusion reactor without understanding the underlying principles. They didn't develop this technology, they scavenged it. Sarah nodded, which means they don't fully understand what they're guarding. They know Earth's structures are dangerous to them, but not exactly how they work. That's why they're trying to intimidate us rather than simply destroying Earth outright. They're afraid of triggering something they can't control. "We've got movement," Lieutenant Park's voice cut in from his monitoring station. "Hegemony patrol entering the Jupiter system. 6 minutes until they're in range." Sarah turned to the assembled leaders. "I need an answer now. Are we doing this? Because once we start, there's no turning back." The room erupted in overlapping discussions, arguments, and counter-arguments. Finally, Dr. Elena Santos of the Titan Science Council stood up. "My great-grandmother was among the last to leave Earth. She always said humanity's greatest mistake was abandoning our cradle rather than fighting to save it. I say we finish that fight." One by one, the others nodded their agreement. Sarah felt a weight lift from her shoulders and settle somewhere deeper. They were committed now. 3 minutes to patrol range, Park warned. "Good thing we're not really here," Sarah smiled. The holograms began to fade as everyone cut their quantum connections, leaving their avatars to slowly dissipate in the abandoned facility. In reality, they were scattered across a dozen colonies, their meeting existing only in encrypted quantum space. Back in her real location, a secret bunker beneath New Singapore's surface, Sarah turned to her actual team. "Begin Operation Wake-Up Call. All cells activate." Across the solar system, carefully positioned ships and personnel began to move. The plan was audacious, maybe impossible, but it was built on a truth the hegemony didn't understand. Humanity had never lost its connection to Earth. Even after abandoning it, they had maintained hidden quantum relays, automated research stations, and dormant transport networks. Not out of sentiment, but out of pure human stubbornness. The refusal to completely let go of anything that was once theirs. In his lab on Proxima, Dr. Rivera initiated the final compilation of his activation codes. The quantum archaeology data had revealed patterns in the ancient structure's programming that resonated with human brainwave patterns. Not just any humans, but specific individuals whose genetic markers most closely matched the original builders. Sarah was one of them. So was Marcus, and they had found 23 others scattered throughout the colonies. The wake-up call would connect all of them simultaneously to Earth's dormant network, using their combined neural patterns as a key. Hegemony ships are increasing patrols near Earth, Park reported through the quantum comm. They're expecting something, but they're looking in the wrong direction. Team 1 is in position. Sarah closed her eyes, connecting to the quantum network that linked the chosen 25. Their minds brushed against each other in virtual space, each carrying a fragment of the activation code written into their very DNA. Team 2 in position, Park continued. Quantum relays at full power. In his lab, Marcus initiated the final sequence, sending activation codes now. Sarah, if this works, there's no telling what we're about to unleash. The structure's power readings are off any scale we can measure. The hegemony's right to be afraid, Sarah replied, feeling the other's consciousness aligning with hers in quantum space, but not because of what's sleeping under Earth's surface. They should be afraid of us, the children who came home to wake it up. The quantum network surged with power. 25 minds reached out across light years, their combined consciousness carrying codes written in their genes millions of years ago. Deep beneath Earth's surface, ancient machines began to stir. And in the space around Earth, the hegemony sensors suddenly blazed with warnings they had hoped never to see again. The sleepers were awakening, and their children had come home to claim their inheritance. Humanity's greatest exodus had been from Earth. Now they were about to attempt their greatest return, not as the scattered children of a dying world, but as the heirs to a legacy that could reshape the galaxy. The hegemony had maintained their quarantine for millions of years, but they had never faced humans who knew exactly what they were fighting for. The real question wasn't whether humanity could reach Earth. It was whether the galaxy was ready for what would happen when they did. The quantum network exploded with consciousness. Sarah Chen felt her mind expand beyond the confines of her physical form, merging with the other 24 awakeners in a vast digital ocean. Through their combined awareness, she could sense the ancient machines stirring beneath Earth's surface, and feel the panic spreading through the hegemony fleet as their worst fears began to materialize. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Park's voice seemed to come from a great distance. The structures are powering up in sequence, exactly as Dr. Rivera predicted. Through their shared consciousness, Sarah felt Marcus Rivera's excitement. The structures weren't just machines. They were extensions of human consciousness, designed to be controlled by minds working in perfect harmony. Each geometric shape beneath the Earth's crust was a node in a vast neural network, waiting for the right combination of minds to give it purpose. The first structure to fully activate was beneath the Pacific Ocean floor. Its dodecahedral form pulsed with energy that defied conventional physics, sending ripples through space-time itself. The hegemony ships nearest to it suddenly found their quantum field generators fluctuating wildly. "They're trying to broadcast a signal," Marcus observed through the network. The hegemony ships, they're calling for reinforcements. Sarah focused their combined consciousness on the signal. The ancient technology responded instantly, extending a field that transformed the very fabric of space around Earth. Quantum communications from the hegemony fleet died mid-transmission. "They're cut off," Sarah announced to the resistance leaders waiting anxiously across the colonies. "Earth exists in its own bubble of modified space-time now, just like the structures builders planned millions of years ago." Through their expanded awareness, the 25 awakeners could finally understand the true purpose of Earth's ancient machines. They weren't weapons or power sources in any conventional sense. They were reality engines, devices capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of physics within their sphere of influence. Their builders hadn't just been advanced. They had transcended the normal limitations of space, time, and consciousness itself. "Hegemony ships approaching the quantum barrier," Park reported. "They're charging weapons." Sarah felt Marcus's consciousness merge more closely with hers as they accessed deeper functions of the network. "They don't understand," he said. "These structures don't just manipulate reality. They define it. Within this bubble, we make the rules." The hegemony's energy weapons fired, lancing toward Earth with enough power to crack a planet. But as they struck the quantum barrier, something impossible happened. The energy simply ceased to exist, converted into harmless radiation by laws of physics that no longer applied. Through their shared consciousness, Sarah addressed the other awakeners. "Our ancestors built these machines as a sanctuary, a place where we could survive anything, even the end of the universe itself. But they couldn't maintain the network consciousness indefinitely. So they went to sleep, hid their technology, and seeded Earth with our genetic line. We're not just their descendants. We're their backup plan." The hegemony ships launched another assault, this time trying to force their way through the barrier physically. Their crystalline forms shattered against laws of physics they couldn't comprehend, fragments dissolving into quantum foam. In the quantum network, Marcus's consciousness pulsed with sudden understanding. "The sleeping ones," he realized. "They're not in the structures. They are the structures. Our ancestors uploaded their entire civilization into the quantum network, leaving their physical forms behind. And now we're restoring the connection," Sarah finished, "bringing their knowledge back online through our own neural patterns." Across Earth, more structures awakened. Each one expanded the field of altered physics, creating a growing bubble of space where human consciousness could reshape reality itself. The remaining hegemony ships retreated to a safe distance, their crystalline forms rippling with what might have been fear. In the quantum network, information began to flow. The memories and knowledge of an entire civilization, stored in patterns of energy and matter, downloaded directly into the awakener's expanded consciousness. Sarah saw the truth of human history unfold before her, not a story of primitive apes slowly evolving intelligence, but of godlike beings choosing to hide themselves in plain sight, becoming simple organisms that would slowly regain their true potential. They're coming. Park's voice cut through their revelations. Massive quantum distortions at the edge of the solar system. The entire hegemony fleet is responding. Sarah felt the others' determination match her own. Their ancestors had hidden this technology for a reason. Not out of fear, but because humanity needed to rediscover its potential naturally, without shortcuts. Now that potential was fully awakened, and the hegemony was about to learn why they should have left sleeping gods alone. "Bring the resistance fleet in," Sarah ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity really is." Through their expanded consciousness, the Awakeners reached out to every human ship and colony. The knowledge of their ancestors flowed through the quantum network, teaching them how to manipulate the very fabric of reality. Humanity had not just reclaimed its birthright, it had remembered what it truly was. And the hegemony was about to discover that their quarantine hadn't protected the galaxy from humanity. It had protected humanity from having to demonstrate its full potential before it was ready. That protection was no longer necessary. The children of Earth had grown up, and the galaxy would never be the same. The hegemony arrived in force. Thousands of crystalline ships emerged from quantum space, their forms blotting out the stars around Earth's solar system. Their combined power could shatter planets and reshape star systems. For millions of years, they had been the undisputed masters of the galaxy, wielding stolen technology they barely understood against any species that threatened their dominion. But they had never faced anything like this. Within Earth's quantum barrier, Sarah Chen and the other Awakeners floated in shared consciousness. Their minds merged with the ancient network that their ancestors had built. Through their expanded awareness, they could see the true nature of space, time, and reality itself. And more importantly, they could change it. "The hegemony is broadcasting on all frequencies," Lieutenant Park reported from his station on Proxima. They're offering terms. Sarah felt Marcus's amusement ripple through the quantum network. After millions of years of enforcing their will through fear and superior firepower, the hegemony was finally facing something that made them consider diplomacy. The crystalline figure appeared in their shared consciousness, the same being that had delivered the original warning. But now they could see its true nature. The geometric patterns weren't just for show. They were a crude attempt to mimic the technology of Earth's original builders. "You have accessed power you cannot comprehend," the being stated, its mental voice trembling slightly. The builders were a threat to the natural order. Their ability to rewrite reality itself made them too dangerous to exist. "We protected the galaxy by forcing them into dormancy." Protected the galaxy. Sarah let her consciousness expand, sharing the truth she had learned from the ancient records. "You feared them because they offered other species the chance to evolve beyond your control. Every civilization you've conquered, every species you've dominated, they could have become like us, could have learned to shape reality through the power of consciousness itself. But you kept them down, stole fragments of builder technology to maintain your power, and called it protection." The hegemony being's patterns shifted aggressively. "We maintained order. The builders would have transformed everything, turned solid reality into a chaos of competing consciousness. We saved the galaxy from that fate." "You enslaved the galaxy out of fear," Marcus countered. "Fear of what species could become if allowed to reach their full potential. Fear of a universe where your power meant nothing." Through their expanded awareness, Sarah could sense the hegemony fleet powering up their weapons, copied from ancient builder technology, but used without true understanding. "Last warning," the crystalline being declared. "Return to dormancy, or we will be forced to take direct action." Sarah let her consciousness merge deeper with the quantum network, feeling the others join her. Around Earth, reality itself began to shift and change. The barrier expanded, rewiring the laws of physics as it grew to encompass the entire solar system. "We are humanity," Sarah declared, her voice carrying the weight of millions of years of hidden potential. "We are the children of the builders, and we have remembered who we are. We will not hide any longer. The hegemony fleet opened fire. Energy weapons powerful enough to crack worlds lanced toward Earth and dissipated harmlessly against laws of physics that no longer recognized them as valid expressions of reality. The crystalline ships tried to retreat, to jump to quantum space, but found themselves bound by rules they couldn't understand or break. "We don't want to destroy you," Sarah broadcast to the fleet. "Our ancestors didn't hide themselves out of fear of you. They hid because they knew every species needs to find its own path to enlightenment. They seeded the galaxy with potential, waiting for civilizations to evolve naturally into their true power. You short-circuited that process, stole technology you weren't ready for, and used it to dominate others." Through the quantum network, the Awakeners reached out to every ship in the hegemony fleet. Reality rippled and changed around them as human consciousness rewrote the fundamentals of existence. The crystalline ships began to shift, their stolen technology responding to its true masters. "But we're awake now," Sarah continued, "and we're going to fix what you broke. Every species you dominated will have the chance to evolve naturally. Every civilization you stunted will be free to grow. The galaxy doesn't need your kind of protection anymore." The hegemony being's form began to dissolve as the physics that supported its existence changed. "You'll doom us all," it cried. "Reality itself will collapse into chaos." "Not chaos," Marcus corrected. "Evolution. Growth. The natural development you tried to prevent. Humanity is awake, and we remember our purpose. We're not here to rule the galaxy. We're here to help it grow up." The quantum network pulsed with power as the Awakeners exercised their birthright. Throughout the galaxy, hegemony ships and installations found their stolen technology turning against them. Not destroying them, but stripping them of the power they had abused for so long. As the last of the hegemony fleet retreated, their crystalline forms now little more than ordinary matter, Sarah addressed the human colonies waiting anxiously for news. "We are the builders," she declared. "Not conquerors like the hegemony, but gardeners. Our ancestors seeded the galaxy with potential and went to sleep until the time was right. Now we've awakened to continue their work, not to rule, but to nurture, to help every species discover their own path to transcendence." The quantum network hummed with possibility as humanity stepped into its true role. They were no longer just another species trying to survive in a hostile galaxy. They were the caretakers their ancestors had designed them to be, awakened at last to help guide the galaxy toward its full potential. The hegemony's age of fear was over. The age of growth had begun.